I've hunted insects in over 100 different countries. But here in Madagascar, even an experienced entomologist like me, George Broussard, can feel a little lost. Almost all of the plants and animals around me are unique to this very strange island that has been cut off from the rest of the planet for millions of years. I am truly at the end of the earth. Every insect that I come across is a rare one. I won't even let this common grasshopper get away. Even a common insect like this one can't be found anywhere else on this earth. This little fellow is worth his weight in gold. And I'm not the only one who seems to like it. In Madagascar, you definitely have to be ready for surprises. Our journey begins in a place that was once called the Blue Forest. That was back in 1600. Today, it's a very different kind of place. Welcome to Antares, Madagascar's bustling capital with more than 1 million inhabitants. I've come to the train station where I have reserved a train all to myself. Okay, so it's not a TGV Express like France's high-speed train. Let's just call it a TGB, or a train for George Broussard. Its real name is a Michelin, and it runs on rubber wheels. Since I'm the only passenger, I can rearrange things the way I like. It's the first time this old rail car has witnessed anything like this. My plan is to turn it into an entomology lab on wheels. It isn't just by fluke that I have chosen to take the train. It's the middle of the rainy season in Madagascar. There are lots of insects everywhere, but the roads have turned to mud. Lucky for us, we can always rely on the railroad. Finally, we're off, heading towards the magnificent rainforest of the East Coast. 65 million years ago, the entire island of Madagascar went on a great journey. A 300,000 square mile piece of the Earth's crust broke away from the supercontinent that connected South America, Africa, India, and Australia. That was how Madagascar was born. It's the oldest island on the planet. As the sea filled the narrow fall, it grew to become a 250-mile wide expanse of water. Without ever noticing, the plants and the animals of this huge Noah's Ark drift out towards an entirely new destination on the great ocean of evolution. Most of the living creatures here evolved without having to face the same conditions that their cousins experienced on the mainland. That's the reason their shapes, colors, and behaviors are so unique. This is especially true for the insects. 95% of the insects here can only be found in Madagascar. Our first stop is Antares, where I have some wonderful insects for you to meet. The amazing plants and animals of Madagascar's national parks are attracting more and more tourists. They have come here to see the birds, the lemurs, and to admire the orchids. But I'm sure you realize that I have other interesting things to show you. Do you see this tree?
This is the favorite plant of one of the most bizarre insects of Madagascar, the giraffe neck weevil. It's pretty high, but my net also has a long neck. We're lucky. It's a male.
In fact, only the males of this species have this extraordinary neck, but we don't know why. Real giraffes use them to reach those top leaves they feed on. The giraffe is also a vegetarian, but this weevil can easily climb up to the leaves it wants to nibble on. It only needs to bend its head to graze as much as it likes. One thing is certain. While the giraffe certainly won't win any prize for efficiency in aeronautical design, it can fly off with surprising speed. There are several hundred species of weevils in Madagascar, 99% of which are unique to the island. As a result, they are highly sought after by both scientists and collectors. The litmus or lichen weevils are covered with hairy spikes that provide the perfect camouflage for moving through vegetation. According to popular belief, a man wearing a weevil can even steal his neighbor's oxen without being seen. Have a look there. Right there, a lizard. It's an Uroplatus. This reptile, along with its cousin the chameleon, is considered to be the master of camouflage. Yes, it's true. They are incredible. But personally, I find their reputation highly overrated because I know here many insects that can do a lot better at camouflage. This walking piece of vegetation is the dead leaf mantis. The insect has the same color and texture as a leaf and even moves like a plant swaying in the wind. To perfectly imitate the bark, some of these mantises even have outgrowths that hide the shape of their bodies. When they lie flat against the moss, they become completely invisible. The chameleon can catch an insect with its tongue in less than a quarter of a second. But the mantis attack is just as accurate, and it takes him only 1/20th of a second. Even insects beat us when it comes to fast food. Here's the true master of camouflage, a stick insect. These species can only be found here in Madagascar. It just takes enough patience to go through all the twigs of the forest, one by one. Here, a male is clinging to the back of a female. Although she is much larger, the poor male has probably had a devil of time finding her. He won't let her go that easily. In the drier parts of the island, the phasmids have adapted to the thorny vegetation. They are light color and covered with spines. These spines also discourage predators who would think twice before swallowing a piece of barbed wire. In fact, the only brilliantly colored stick insect of this planet also live in Madagascar. But they are not the only shining stars in the Malagasy forest. There are more flowers in Madagascar than almost anywhere else on Earth. This island of flowers is home to no less than 12,000 species of flowering plant and orchids. These insects are very happy indeed. No shortage of pollen and nectar lovers here. These magnificent creatures are flower beetles. They drink the nectar, eat the pollen, suck the sap, and nibble on the ripe fruit. Butterflies and moths are nectar specialists. The island of Madagascar boasts over 4,000 species of moths and 300 species of butterflies. Several species of Malagasy butterflies originally came from the African continent, using the prevailing winds to cross the 250-mile channel of Mozambique, only to land here, and sometimes even in my net. Allow me to introduce you to the largest and most spectacular butterfly in Madagascar, the Antares. No one really knows how it got here. The Antares is not of African origin, but it's quite similar to the bird-winged butterfly, a large genus of butterflies from Southeast Asia. So how were his ancestors able to cross the vast Indian Ocean and reach Madagascar? That remains a mystery. After such a productive expedition, I have earned my moment of rest with some children from the village of Andasibe. You're about to see a very special game of marbles.
Ah oui, c'est une bonne boule. Trop grosse? Et si je t'en prête une? Ah, OK. Tu vas jouer? Tiens. Je vais t'en donner.
Are you wondering why these kids are laughing at my beautiful green marbles?
Laquelle que tu veux? Oh, ouais, laquelle que tu choisis? Bon, moi, la plus petite. Oh, là, c'est à moi. Là, c'est à moi. Là, je vais m'en.
These are pill millipedes, a species that is unique to Madagascar. These animals are completely harmless. They spend their days grazing on moss, algae, or on other decomposing plant matter.
On essaie tout le monde, OK? Puis doux, OK? Le premier qui rouvre, surveille. Le mien va rouvrir, je suis sûr. Qu'est-ce que tu en penses? Est-ce que c'est la tienne qui va rouvrir?
And if we leave them alone for a few moments, they will open up right in our hands.
Une bonne main pour toi, mon ami, tu vas gagner.
In order to protect themselves, these amazing creatures roll themselves up into a ball and hide inside their shells.
OK, alors on va les ramasser. Alors voilà.
In the Malagasy language, they call these creatures taibitana. It means to roll up fast into a ball.
Merci bien, tiens.
As for me, I have to get back on the road. Insects await, even at night. And who knows what we will find. I've set up my lamp for a night hunting expedition next to the railway. Thanks to the train's headlights, I can attract insects from a much larger area. There are a huge number of sphinx moths here. I therefore have a good chance of catching one of the most famous of them, the Predicta. It all started in 1904. Charles Darwin was amazed by the strange shapes of some of the orchids in Madagascar. Darwin made the deduction that there had to be a moth there with the beak long enough to reach the end of the nectary. Many entomologists at the time thought Darwin was out of his mind. But 1 year later, they caught a sphinx with a 12-inch beak. They named the sphinx Predicta in honor of Darwin's prediction. 5, 10, 15, 20. 25 centimeters. Impressive. But it's not the Predicta. Too bad for me, Mr. Darwin. As the hours go by, the number of specimens mounts. The Michelin itself is becoming an insectarium. I have to regularly check my traps and any bushes nearby. With all of these magnificent insects, who feels like sleeping? Follow me. The night still holds some surprises. And here's one. 2 large moths mating. These are the Argema, the largest and most spectacular moths of the Saturnidae family in Madagascar. The Argema caterpillar feeds on several species of plants. That's why this great moth hasn't suffered too badly from the island's deforestation. But the largest specimens can only be found in the great tropical forest. After emerging from its cocoon, it takes only a couple of hours for those impressive wings to unfold and spread more than 8 inches, making the Argema, or the comet moth, worthy of its name. From an egg to a caterpillar, from a caterpillar to a cocoon, nature needed more than a year to create this huge moth. This moth cannot feed and will live only 5 days. Well, fly quickly away, my falling star, since you have very little time left. Our journey to the end of the world is drawing to a close, and we're returning to Tananarive. In an all-too-common story, Madagascar's unique biodiversity is threatened by the destruction of natural habitats. But there's hope in the enormous potential for ecotourism that lies in these vast forests. A future for the forest is a future for all species living on the island, including humans.